Hi guys, welcome to It's Not You, It's Me. I'm finally jumping back on the podcast episodes because I've had endless amount of DMs telling me I need to commit to this, which I totally get, and I'm back here now. So one thing I've noticed when it comes to discussing things about the South Asian community is I had very few people willing to be seen or be known as who they are, because unfortunately the ramifications in our culture are quite staggering. So I've started a new series where I give people the option to stay anonymous, no camera, just me and you having a conversation. But it really helps the rest of the community come out of this stigma and realize that there are other people that are dealing with similar things than we are. And I'm hoping that these conversations can, open the minds and the hearts of certain people that are listening, and also make other members of the community feel braver and that there is someone out there to relate to. And inshallah, the community will expand and build from there. And one day we can all meet each other face to face at an event, inshallah ta'ala. So we're going to start today with a sister of mine that I've known for quite some time now. She is actually, from a social media person, actually become one of my friends and acquaintances. It's fair to say that her experience covers quite a vast majority of the things that we deal with in our community, especially as South Asian Muslim women. So hi sis, how are you?
Assalamu alaikum. How are you?
Walaikum salam. How are you feeling today?
A bit nervous.
Yeah, that's understandable. Do you want to tell a bit why you're feeling nervous?
I think it's because I've never really openly spoken about my experiences and what I've been through. And I do strongly feel talking to other women, just in the sort of general settings, we've all got problems and issues, but there's no one to voice our concerns because we're too scared. So we don't know how to come forward and how to come out there and say, look, this is happening to me. Can somebody help me or guide me or support me? And it's not there. And this is why when I saw your TikTok, first of all, I was like, my God, we got someone shouting out for us. We've got someone who's brave enough to come out and say these things that we've hide away, but secretly we do talk about it all the time. So then when I contacted you and talked to you and watched your TikToks, I was thinking, oh, let us shut it up. We've got someone who's coming out now. And this is why I wanted to come forward then and say, maybe this will help someone else. Um, and inshallah, hopefully it can open more people to come out and talk more to make their lives better within the home and as a community. And hopefully we can start something.
Alhamdulillah, yeah, inshallah. That's the intention behind it. I think when I saw how some of our community is coming out against this stuff, it's very rebellion based.
Yeah.
And I've been down that route myself, and it's very damaging, not only for yourself, but for the community. And I wanted to sort of come out in a way where I was like, look, people talking about these things, people are going to see as rebellion anyway.
True.
But I want to do it in a more where we bridge the generational gap. We don't further, abandon each other in this journey.
Things is affecting us. Yeah, sorry. It's because it's affecting us emotionally, and it affects how we behave within our homes or within a community or within our friends or with our children, and we don't know how to handle because we've never had training. We've just been told to get on with it, and we don't know how to get on with it anymore. We're tired. We want like sort of help and support and that sisterhood, if you like, of boosting us to say no, it's okay. Some things, yeah, you do put up with because that's just the way life is. But there's other things you can voice your concerns and say, no, this is not acceptable. I'm not happy. And our generation, I'm the older generation, but we're tired, and our children are seeing it, and they're not accepting this anymore. They're rebelling in a way where they don't want to follow what we did. They want to live their lives and be happy. And if I'm honest with you, I don't think a lot of us, our generation, were happy. We just got on with it because we thought it was the norm.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that's quite a common line that I hear from people of that generation as well. Just for clarity, guys, we're talking about the generation that are sort of 45 to 55, if you like. I don't think they were ever happy. I never witnessed true happiness. I witnessed conformity. And if you want to get on well and be seen well, this is how you behave.
Yeah.
It was all about the external opinion on what was happening with you. It was all about what people saw. It was never about self-respect. It was never about contentment. It was never about happiness, not individually speaking. But if you take all those things and attach them to the social ramifications, you were like, okay, I can be at peace now because Chaudhry Saab's family can see that all my daughters are married off. We're not, are they happy? Are they content? Are they living Islamically? Like, none of that was really a thing. Whatever's happening indoors is happening indoors. And if only we know about it, then it doesn't matter because other people can't see.
It's like they say, oh, kudi da rishta ho gaya, jo shukar hai.
Yeah.
But not like, well, you know, how did you go the journey? How did you sort of find someone? Are you okay? And how, and somebody did say to me when I first got married, and they were saying, oh, how did she get married? Because I wasn't the mod con type of girl, so I thought I just got sort of like, oh, how did she get married? Oh, she found someone, did she? Or somebody married her? Oh,
Wow.
good. Oh, that's nice. And I was shocked to hear that people were thinking like that. Like, don't you want to be happy for me that I found someone? Or, I mean, it wasn't love and all that. It was just that it's not done like the traditional way, you know, the boy saw the girl, and then just said, yeah, we got married. Which, you know, at that time, that's what a lot of us did because we just thought that was the norm. But
Yeah.
it was never sort of discussed in a way where you're emotional and is this what you really want and how you're going to live your life and these are the rules, this is the etiquette, this is how you conduct yourself in certain situations. And what I'm finding now with the younger generation, we were told to chup karke get on with it because at least you know you're married, you've got a house and everything's fine. But the younger generation is saying, no, we want to live and we want to travel and we want to see the world. And so it's a different type of setting with the younger children now. And our age groups now are seeing children living their lives like that, thinking, hang on a minute, we wanted to do that, but we never had the guts to say we want to go out and about. And if you did go out and about in those days when I was younger, as young girls, on holidays or whatever trips you had, you were seen as the like, oh my God, they're going on holiday. What are they doing? But all they
Yeah,
do
the
is having
loose
fun.
girls.
Yeah, they were just having fun. They were actually doing what they should be doing, but they were seen as like, oh my God, you know, that's not right. You shouldn't be doing that. And because we were grown up to think a certain way, as our mothers thought, and we just lived like that.
That's actually a really good point, because in our community, freedom and living your life is directly associated with zina.
Yeah.
It's either fornication or drinking or going mental and taking drugs. Like, we take things so far. And that really strikes me, because I've had people on my TikTok messaging me like, how do you know? And you don't know the world out there. And I was like, excuse me. I was like, I have literally lived and tasted everything out there that's in the world. And I'm coming back to report to tell you that not everybody is interested in taking things that far. That's not the first thought that comes into a lot of teenagers' heads. But if it does, now, yes, there is teenage temptation and your hormones and the age that you're going through, fair enough. That stuff does play a huge role in your decision-making at that age. But what really strikes me is, for a community that shouldn't be prioritizing or doesn't okay the pathway to fornication and drugs and alcohol, it's their first fear.
Yeah.
And I think to myself, but it's not normalized in the home. Well, we shouldn't be normalizing it. So where does this fear come from? And I truly believe deep down inside, we are very insidious and we are secret keeping community. The amount of drugs and alcohol affairs, the amount of zina that goes on in our community, We like to brush it under the carpet and pretend we're perfect, but all those fears come out on our kids.
Yeah.
We're like, oh, but you're straight away going to do that. Why is there no faith and structure, first and foremost, in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala?
Yeah.
Secondly, in the way you brought up this child. Now, we've got low self-esteem, so any type of mistake that happens, it crumbles us to the ground. Like,
True.
we just finish. But at the end of the day, life is that challenge we get through via making these mistakes.
But then is it because when we were when I was younger, we just did what our parents did. So we never lived our lives outside of the community, if you like, to see the world and what Allah has made and travel and educate yourselves and get knowledge. We were just told in those days that you just read the Quran quickly, learn your namaz, and that's it. So we weren't taught the basics of the etiquettes of a strong women, because so many strong women in our deen that I'm only learning now about, really, that they did so much and they were out there in the forefront in a lot. So we're not like an army of strong women. We were told to be suppressed because what would the neighbour next door say, or what would they say if you do that? So let's just
Yeah.
keep you quiet and just be the good girls or the good boys. Try and keep your head down, and like you said, keep everything under the carpet. But then we didn't know how to live when we got out into the real white world, if you like. Like, how do you actually conform and socialize with people who are not like you? And you think, I feel a bit alienated here. I don't know what these people are like. I'm different, they're different. So then learning that and channeling yourself in life was difficult. Where the children these days mix with everybody, which is great. But like you said, then they go to the extreme. They want to do everything out there because they feel like, well, mum and all didn't do nothing. We want to go the other way. There's no like sort of middle ground, if you like, to balance yourself.
Well, here's where culture and Islam come to collide with each other.
Mm.
Because Islamically, we are not taught the reasonings behind what we should and shouldn't be doing. We get instructions thrown at us. We get orders thrown at us. And I was listening to a lecture by Ali Hamuda the other day. Guys, please look up Ali Hamuda. He gives absolutely fantastic marriage and parenting advice. And he's just incredible. He is solidly based in the Quran and Sunnah and doesn't deviate in all sorts of other angles. And it's just beautiful. And he says in there that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made us in a way where we are creatures that require reasoning. There's only so long. I mean, okay, right. Let's scratch what I was gonna say. Let's go back. How many of us know about a child that constantly asks why? They get to that age and everything's why. Why? On one hand, it can be very annoying, but on the other hand, it reveals the nature of human beings. We need to understand the reasoning. And we are not given reasoning in the South Asian community. We're barked instructions, very slave master type communication. I told you to do this, therefore you do it. But I don't think they even have the understanding and the intelligence and the logic behind why they're stopping us.
The thing is, when you want to it's like when you want to get out there or do something, for something reason you feel like all eyes are on you. So you feel that guilt, that shame, and you think, oh, I better not do that because I don't want to, say I don't want my mum and dad to get upset, or I don't want to bring it back in the community. Don't want to see me as being rebellion or anything like that. I just want to be seen but not seen, if you know what I mean, heard but not heard. You're so confused that when you're challenging yourself through life, when you get older, then you're thinking, I've missed myself somewhere along the line, and I'm thinking, where am I? And then you go back to your deen now, like with so many subhanallah women that come in, and males and females are coming back to the deen, but it's because they've lost. I think I feel I've lost my sense of what my purpose. What is it that I'm supposed to be doing as a friend, a daughter, a wife? And now I'm divorced, so what do I do now? And I feel shame. I feel I haven't had the tools to make me not to be or never look after your in-laws, and make sure you live by yourself and all that kind of stuff. We just weren't taught how to balance and put ourselves out there in an articulate way that we're strong women and we've got our deen and our rules, but the men should have their rules as well, understand what their position is, so we can balance each other nicely through life. Then you've got
That's
the
quite
community.
interesting, isn't it? We're not taught balance.
Mm.
We are sort of manufactured in a line to be these obedient robots. So then our parents can say to everybody else, look how obedient my robots are.
Yeah.
And eventually, which is the natural case of life, you kind of steer away from your parents at one point because you get a family of your own or you pass a certain age. And it's interesting what you said just there about not knowing who you are. That is one of the primary lessons from what I've realized throughout my journey coming back to Islam, is knowing who you are, what position you hold in your relations, and what your goals in life should be. They all reside there. But nowhere in Islamic teaching does it say to bash these values over a child's head. You have to emulate those values because your children copy you. Now, you see so many videos online, don't you, of a child, you know, we find it funny because they're only little, but they'll copy their parents the way they swear. Or they'll repeat the parents' coffee order back to them, and the parents are, how do you know? Because everything that is said, everything that is done is picked up subconsciously by the child.
But I do find children are different now, because they tell you, oh, I've got mental health issues. Don't, I don't want you to.
That's later on in the timeline.
Yeah.
But
it's
you can't
different
say
now.
the psychology of human being
Mm.
is like as that. From 0 to basically 7, they are subconsciously picking up on everything that we are doing. So if you're going to go back to Pakistani culture and say, namaz padiye, salah padiye, and then you cannot remember the last time you even saw this person put the janamaz out to pray salah. But they're screaming those orders out at you. That is when your bit comes in, when they get, well, they are doing it sooner now, but when they go to 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, they're telling us, I've got these issues, I've got that issue, I don't like it, because the world is infiltrating us. We don't teach our kids self-esteem, we teach our kids blind obedience.
How do you get that training there? Because it's so hard, because we don't get that training within our own community. Although the community is doing amazing things now with Islam and teaching the Deen and the Quran, but the actual etiquettes of the home and actual real life issues are never addressed within the home or within the mosques, or you've got nowhere to go to say, look, I got this problem. What do I do? How do I do this? There's no parenting skilled people in each field. We haven't got a representative to sort of go to say, I've got this issue, how do I deal with this? And you use Islam to help you navigate through your issues. But our scholars are so far and few really between that we haven't got enough of us to teach us.
So I'm going to address this point because I hear it from quite a lot of people. Guys, the Quran, the Sunnah, and the Hadith, and the Seerah were all sent down to every single human being. We need to stop heavily relying on other people to give us information. When we constantly looking at someone else, oh, wo mujhe batayenge, wo mujhe batayenge, wo mujhe batayenge, they are taking the information from the same resources that we would if we went there directly ourselves.
But then what if we're not equipped, like emotionally, with so much we don't know, and we're going through a lot, and then we think, well, I don't know how to navigate this. I don't know how to have better my
But
situation.
that's our job as Muslims. You can't palm that job off to someone else. If you have to read 150 hadiths and the same ayah 8 times with 4 different tafsirs to understand, that's our job. That's what we're supposed to be doing. But we're too busy being emotional and crying and worrying that someone else isn't telling us. If we are concerned that the infiltration of our deen or the delivery of certain aspects of culture isn't being tackled in our deen, it's our job to go and research the reasoning why and how we can tackle that.
So where do we go then? Because I can't find anywhere where I can go and find this information.
Because sis, I've just named them.
Yeah.
The seerah of our nabis, not just Hazrat Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There's seerah for every single nabi that came from the beginning, from Adam alayhi salam all the way to Hazrat Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They deal with real life scenarios to do with wives, daughters, abandonment, murder, you name it, weddings, somebody becoming a widow, orphans. All concepts are covered there. People are just not willing to make the effort for themselves to look, and they don't have the self-esteem to believe what they read was correct. But it's not hard to Google things these days. In the previous generation, fair enough, you didn't have so much access to your fingertips. You can literally go on ChatGPT and AI or Google and put hadith, Sahih Hadith that covers such and such topic. We need to be making those efforts for ourselves. And that is one of the main things that my TikTok page is about. Because yes, we should have sheikhs can rely on, but everybody's constantly saying that we don't have it. So we as Muslims should individually be ensuring that by the time we're on our deathbed, we've understood we've got a vast understanding on what Islam and our deen is. We can't do that without making personal efforts.
True. I think it's with when you've got not pressures, but when you live in the life of trying to be this, and then you get married, and then trying to do this with the family, and then you've got the children, and then you're trying to work, and then you're trying to navigate everything. It's putting yourself aside for the deen to make you better. But the deen used to take a back burner for some reason. I don't know why.
But that's the main mistake that we make.
Yeah.
I made that mistake majority of my life. Deen was over there, and then the rest of my life is what I was dealing with here. Now we have to decide what level of pain on this earth are we willing to endure? Because no one can tell me that they don't have 30 minutes a day to read. I refuse to believe that. As someone who works full-time, has a business, supports her mum, lives in a different house, literally almost 2 hours away, I've got family, I've got things I need to do. I know children is a whole other kind of ball game, but no one can tell me that they don't have 30 minutes a day. It's about whether we think that 30 minutes is important, whether we understand how vital it is for us to be able to know our deen as individuals.
I find that difficult, though, if I'm honest. I find that I know I want to learn it, and I know I got to look books and I got to start reading. And I mean, I'm not the best reader, so it does take me a while. But I have got books, and I am looking through it, and I am taking my time to learn something about the deen. But it's so vast. I'm thinking, where do I begin? And trying to go to these little courses that I find here and there to boost me, to get me back into it. So I think going back to the masjid, I think, is a good thing for me to do, to get back with that, to boost me and get that support system. I think because as an emotional being, I think I do need to listen to other women to see how they're doing it and how they're moving on, and what is it that I could do myself so I can better myself and then better my way going forward. But I do find whatever I've been through drags me down, and I feel like I'm not ready or emotionally there to pick up something because of it's draining for me.
Yeah, that's quite commonly, in our deen, when you get these feelings and you get waswasa, that's the shaitan stopping you from going there. That's it. It's not. The Western world wants us to believe that we've got 17,000 things wrong with us in our emotional dimension. Our subconscious brain is broken. Our physical body is broken. And now we're like, well, I've got 700,000 things wrong with me or in my way, and I can't do it.
Yeah, but what about what I'm trying to say is that whatever I've been through, and I'm trying to get myself together to move forward, That's where I'm finding the challenge. And when I'm speaking to other women, they're feeling the same thing. It's
Because the shaitan is choosing us in the correct moments when we're at the most weakest. That's the shaitan's job. To grab you when you like, oh, I've got nothing to give. I don't know. That's when he comes in to reinforce and say, yes, you don't know. You don't have the capacity to read this. You don't have the ability to do this. But we can take out an hour to watch a drama.
But when you're told that as well, as you're growing up, and you hear it a lot, that you won't be able to do that. Or what are you doing that for? And and they mock you and laugh at you when you're trying to do something to better yourself in any way. It just throws me back. And I just can't explain it. I just feel like I'm struggling to get back on.
Yes, I get so many people saying this to me. You have to pick your pain. Do you like being like this?
No.
Right. So that's it. It's really not as complicated as we make it. It just emotionally feels burdening. And I say that as someone who really was laying at the bottom of the heap. Like, this motivation, this feeling is not always been there. And Iman is something that fluctuates. But when someone gives me 1,001 reasons why they don't want to do it, it's because you're not doing it. Now, I made this example before about the mountains. If you're at the bottom of a mountain and you look up at the peak and you're like, right, I've got to get up there, it is going to look like an impossible task. But if you say, I will go 1 meter at a time, 1 meter at a time, I will go up. You can then go that 1 meter, see the reality of that, take in the air, become stable, and then slowly rise up the ranks. Now, if you allow yourself every time to bring all your childhood trauma in, all what your parents did, all what your ex-husband did, all what your kids are doing, you're basically allowing yourself to get weighed down by this prospect. And you're never going to be able to get up and achieve anything, because all you're doing is you're marinating and lingering around all your trauma. And that's why when people say to me, why don't you do therapy? Because I don't like rumination. I can't stand it. I do coaching because people need to be in a certain place in their mindset to move on, to face these challenges, to work with me. Otherwise, I can't do this. Let's talk about the same problem for the next 9 months. And there are people that specialize in that because they need to dig through to get to the trauma. But unless you're willing to go to deep therapy, these problems are always going to be on your surface. You need to go down, deep them, see the reality of them. Why do I feel like this? But what's interesting is most people have all the answers. Even you just told me, oh, because I grew up my whole life hearing it. But if you know that's true, why are you not able to implement change when you know the reality of it?
I don't know. If I'm honest, I don't know. And I am making steps here and there, but it's slow steps, like you said. So I am making steps. But for some reason, I just feel pulled back again, and I don't know why. And I'm trying, and I'm finding it difficult. I am finding it very, very difficult.
We covered earlier about the shaitan.
Yeah.
Shaitan is so prime and ready to grab you in your moments of weakness. He's there. He's the first guy you're going to have next to you, tapping on your shoulder, whispering things into your ears. We as Muslims need to know that we are about to face this particular war with this entity if we're going to expand our knowledge or implement change. Second thing is very unfortunate, but our community has very low self-esteem because that self-esteem wasn't provided by our parents. But we can't go on the rest of our life like that.
No, we can't. You're right.
Because you'll be a 60-year-old teenager. And you're not helping anyone. Just being a victim, which, my God, the women out in our community, if there was a degree course they would all get distinctions on this.
Why do we do that then? Why do we do that to ourselves? What is it that we're not stepping out and...
It's psychologically easier to be a victim. You just told me how hard you find it to implement change. Do you think when I first started covering up and wearing modest clothes, it didn't feel like my skin was on fire? My skin was on fire, my head was itching. I would hear little whispers in my ear like, you look like such a disgusting old grandma. Look at you. No one's going to marry you. All your beauty is gone. You look fat. You can never do this. Look at your old life. Look at your old pictures. You want to be a good girl? All of that stuff weighs on all of us. When I first started bridging this generational gap with me and my parents, there was a long time of estrangement between us. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decreed it that I will go back. And I did that. And I did my best to implement the things that I could understand. Did I grasp it all? Did I do it perfectly? No, I didn't. Took almost 4 years for me and them to get to a point where we're having decent communication and we're not swearing at each other or fighting or losing our minds with each other and then not talking for 6 months plus at a time. Like, everything is a challenge. You have to choose. You have to pick your pain. When people are like, I don't know what to do. All right, fine then. Because being a victim, let's go back to being a victim. Because us South Asians, it disappoints me deeply how comfortable we are as women to become these victims. It's all we've seen generationally. Mere naal enj hua hai, unhone enj kiya si, and they did this to me, they did that to me, they come and did this to me, they came and that to me, because sabr and taking as much crap as you physically can is rewarded in our community. You don't get physical reward. You don't get any mental health or social benefits. You just get a tap on the shoulder. When you're raising community of women that get a tap on their shoulder of well done when they sacrifice themselves, psychologically now you're thinking, this is what I've got to do to get seen and approved. I've got to show everyone how difficult my life is, because then they're going to say, Kani changi hai. She's so good. Look how much trauma she put up with. But in the long run, that woman that's put up with the trauma has aged 20 years in advance. She's now got resting bitch face. She's unapproachable. She's got health issues. Her own children aren't interested in talking to her because she's so bitter. And that's just one very extreme example of where it goes. But psychologically, doing the work versus sitting there and saying, look at all this stuff happened to me, is easier to play the victim. The real work is in looking in that mirror directly and going, where are my flaws? What is my problem? And it takes a hell of a lot of strength to be honest with yourself about yourself. So people choose victimhood instead. That's my take on it.
True. No, that's so true. It is true. And I don't know why. I think because our mothers did it. I don't know whether we psychologically carry that with us thinking that's normal. But it's not, because secretly inside, we really want to get out there and do what we want to do. And is that, and I'm trying to explain, is that pull that's, I don't know where it comes from. And I think maybe it is, I don't know how to explain it. But it is draining, and it is something I don't want to be. So this conversation is making me think more, that get up and just get on with it.
Yeah, you have to.
Yeah.
I said this to my coaching client the other day. Sorry, you finish and then sorry, I didn't realize.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
I said this to my coaching client, and I think I might have just discussed it with you previously as well. In our deen, when someone passes away, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told us to bury them immediately. Straight away. He doesn't say, have a week with them to mourn your loss and, do all these rituals and then put them away. He doesn't say, do it in your own time. He's very specific. Dead in the ground. Why do you think he does that? Because it's within a Muslim's lifestyle to understand, to move on, to get on with it. When you lose a loved one, that is probably one of the highest levels of pains you can go through in this life. And even during that time, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, bury them straight away, read your du'as, and move on with your life. If Allah can instruct us to do that at time of death, then everything else is nothing compared to that.
That's really hit a nerve with me, but it's also made me rethink, actually, that's a good point. That's made me actually rethink, yeah, you're right. It can't keep going on. I can't keep doing this to myself. I owe it to myself to get better and be better and do better. It is a long journey, but I am going to come out of it, and I'm going to make sure that I am improving myself in any little way I can, because my children need to see that as well. And my children are different to how I was, because they don't want to live like that. The generation's different now. So they'll come and have a discussion with me about it, and my children just say, well, we're not going to do what you did. And I thought, well, what did I do? And they said, well, the way you used to, look after the home and, the husband and everything, she goes, we're not doing that. And I was like, well, what was wrong with it? And I thought, yeah, I can understand what they mean. It's like didn't have a voice as such. Whereas the children these days, boys and girls, they talk about everything. The younger generation are a lot more compatible in a way, because they talk about everything, the youngsters. And I think it is refreshing to see that they are making changes. They are not staying like how we stayed, which is good. And the girls as well, and the boys will not put up with their wives being talked to in a certain way, or and the girls are raising their voices and saying, "Oh," in a nice way, respectful way, to say, we're married now, and we're gonna, live our lives with our husbands, and we're gonna make sure we live our life as long as we're respected with parents, but we have a life. We will
See,
live.
this is what I talked about, the rebellion earlier, because Islamically speaking, running a home, raising the kids, feeding them, obeying your husband, that's all stuff we've been told by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But because our culture got involved and they made us a slave to these things, now the next generation is rebelling against it, because we weren't taught the beauty behind it. We weren't taught fairness. We weren't taught equity. That when somebody is giving their whole life and serving and cooking and doing this and doing that, they require a certain level of appreciation and respect in return.
But
And
then
they never got that. It was more like, well, this is your job. I don't understand why you're complaining.
yeah, because when the in-laws get in, they expect it of you to do all these things. Like, you're married now, so it's not love or nothing like that. It's basically you married and you just get on with it and you cook and clean and do everything because Allah wants you to do that. And I was thinking, no, Allah doesn't want me to run around not saying anything when I'm hurting, or if I'm upset, or if I need support, or if my husband, wanted to help me a little bit and the mother-in-law's giving him daggers because, like, what are you doing there in the kitchen? Let her do it by herself. So when that voice was raised and said, I need help, it was like shock horror. What's she saying? She speaks too much. She's raised in voice. What's she doing? She's not like us. She's different, isn't she? Or, we don't want someone like that in our family. Look what your wife is saying. And then you've got your husband then supporting his parents and siding with them and leaving you all alone. And then you're trying to struggle through that, thinking, well, where do I go? I've got nowhere to go. I've got no one to say, look, what they're doing, this is wrong. Who do I speak to?
I'm just going to say this. Now, this is going to be a mass message to Muslim women who choose deen over rebellion, okay? Because when you're standing up for haqq, that's not a rebellion. That's what you're meant to be doing, okay? But when you leave Islam and everything behind because of the things you've experienced and you throw it all the way in the bin and you lose your deen, that's rebellion, okay? So what we want to do is find a place in the middle. The only way us as women are going to have that high level of self-esteem in understanding that we are not here to put up with injustices. It's every Muslim's job to speak up on an injustice in an articulate and respectable way, regardless of who the audience is. That's the key. When you understand that your self-esteem and your ultimate level of confidence has to come from the instructions of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We are not taught that. We are taught to put up with injustice. We're not taught to stand against it. But as a mu'min, you have to stand up against it, first and foremost for yourself. We don't know that. We don't believe that Allah is truly there. We are certain about his existence, because if we were certain, we would take his instructions to heart and run with that till our last day.
But I think it's the fear of, if we raised our voices, then the first thing the husband says is, "Oh, I'm going to leave you." If you say anything else, that's it. So
you
what
will
the
be
woman,
left. You will be left. The world will go against you when you stand up for haqq. That is what comes with it. And this is the one thing, like, I know people are like, oh, you're pushing women and men to rebellion. No, I'm not. I'm pushing them to stand up for haqq. When it comes to self-respect, certain level of personal liberties and the dignity that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has provided men and women, when that is stepped over, when those laws are broken, if you decide to stand in front of them, you are going to war with your community. This is why I push everyone to read the Seerah. If you really want to know what it's like to stand up against all of society, including your family, read the Seerah of Ibrahim alayhi salam. Just read it. And you will soon come to realize that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has accounted for all of these situations. You were born alone when you came here, via someone on your own. You are going to be on your cupboard, in your cupboard, on your own. Your mum, your dad, your masi, your chachi, your auntie, your kids, they're not going to be with you here. And you will directly be asked, I gave you these rights and you allowed them to be taken away from you. I didn't see you do anything about it.
I think it's fear.
Of course it is. But what do you fear the most? Do you fear Allah or do you fear people?
At that time, you don't think like that. You fear, to be honest, you fear what the community will say, what mum and dad will say, how you're going to go back home.
But that's the point of this anonymous coaching session, if you like.
Yeah.
You cannot allow your fear of people to overarch the fear that you have for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What's the point then? You don't have iman, basically. I know that's a very hard statement, but it is something we need to come to the reality of quickly, because our women are just constantly, I'm scared, I'm scared, I'm scared, I'm scared, I'm scared.
Well, culture's taken over the theme, really, isn't it? The culture's made more push forward, whereas as long as you read Namaz Quran, you're fine. But if you want to know any knowledge about it, then don't raise your voice, because, you're rattling things, leave it alone. Like I always say, don't rattle my battle, because I'm on my journey now. And I'm trying to make changes here and there, and with my children especially. That this is not what not to do, but always go to Allah first. I'm trying to teach them what I wasn't taught in the best way I can.
This is the thing. Before we start trying to teach others, we need to implement those practices in our own lives.
Yeah.
Okay, because being a mother or being a father doesn't give you an automatic ticket to knowledge.
But this is why I do listen a lot to scholars in the Malin Khan and the raising of children, and I learn from them to try and see how can I make my life better with my family, my children, because I'm not born a parent, obviously, so I'm learning to be a Muslim parent, but also a parent of how the society is these days, because children's thinking is different. So I have to be different, not like what I was brought up as. So I've got to really change my thinking of how the next generation is, for them to be better and not go through nearly half of the nonsense, if you like, that I went through, where I didn't stand up for myself and speak up when I should have, And if I was alone, I'm alone. I'm alone now. So what difference does it make? Could have been alone then, but it was the fear. I know I was speaking to someone and she's having a terrible time with her life at the moment, and she doesn't know what to do. And I know what I should be doing, but I'm scared to do it. I know what I should be doing, but I'm too scared to make the move. So she
It's
will live
such a
like
shame
this.
because this fear that our women have, you've either got fear or you've got total and utter rebellion. And it breaks my heart when I see these opposite ends of these spectrums because
There's no middle ground. There's no middle at the moment.
there is no middle. And
Mm.
that is what Islam is about. Islam is about ultimate balance. You know, we are not here to live in Jannah, but we're also not here to live in Jahannam.
So do we equip the girls with literature then for them to learn themselves, to read themselves, to understand it? Because there isn't anything for my children to pick up, and I only know, I mean, I'm still learning myself. So where do I go so that I can improve, enhance strong, powerful children for the next generation of the deen, and also to fit in their worldly life if in all affairs as best as they can?
So
Where
as
do I
far
go?
as what I've understood with my research into child psychology and the Islamic aspects of it, every parent has from the age of 0 to 7 to install these values in their kids. After that, they are not listening to you. They are more or less being raised by the world outside. So what I've been researching and what I've been told by, you know, that I follow Sahil Adim Saab and I'm part of IMS. So basically, those are the times where you should be not only implementing and teaching the seerah, is the time where you are physically showing them. You are praying. You're not saying come and pray. You are just doing it around them. And the seerah of our nabis, that is the time. That is the time to teach them who their role models are, who their heroes are. You know, rather than them going, oh, Spider-Man, they should be saying Umar al-Khattab.
Yeah.
You know, but we didn't know to say that. We didn't know to say that there is a Nusayba radiyallahu anha, who basically shielded Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam during the Battle of Uhud with her own body.
Yeah, I read that recently.
Right.
Amazing.
So we don't teach our kids this. We don't teach our children the stories of our heroes. So when they don't know that or have that foundation, they're getting their heroes from BBC.
Yeah.
They're getting their heroes from films. They're getting their heroes from Bollywood. They start daydreaming about how they're going to bump into the love of their life because they saw Dilwale.
That's so true.
Yeah, that is what they're too busy thinking about.
But do you think workshops would be a good idea then? Do you think workshops would be a good idea not to sort of throw it down their throats, but say the literature's available, this is, did you know this, you know what I mean? Sort of educate myself, my group of women or age group, and then how we can then give it to the children. So it's not pressurized, but it's informative for them to say, oh, I didn't know that, and they'll want to do it.
But they are Muslims doing workshops.
Okay.
Sahil Adim himself has a parenting workshop. He's moved it now, so you can either attend in person or you can attend online. The link is in my bio if anyone wanted to check that out. But I know that we're back to that point again, that someone just tell me what to do. We're back to that angle again. And yes, there are resources out there to help.
Yeah. I wouldn't even know where to start with the resources, because they say then there's authentic books that you need to look at with the correct authors, and be careful what books you choose.
Yeah, but sis, you can do that yourself.
Yeah.
You can look up scholars that are literally world famous at this point. You can Google what are the authentic hadith books. It'll tell you. You can look up parenting in Islam by the Sunnah. Like, this isn't hard.
Yeah.
You know, like we make everything such a huge, big mountain and challenge in our life. But if we really care about something, we get on with it, don't we? You know, I'll tell you this how, if I said to someone, if I went on my TikTok and said, I've got a spot, what do I do? 1,001 women will tell me what I need to do. They'll all have the answer for that. Put this on it, put that on it, do this, do this, do this. But when you ask Muslim women, what are the parameters of raising your child in Islam? They're like, I don't know, no one told me. Like, sometimes our feeling of hopelessness is something that we're feeding ourselves. If you don't know where to start, but you haven't even begun, like, we straight away, like, I hear this so much, like, oh, well, how do I know it's an authentic book? Well, you have to read it. You have to look at the reviews of this book. What sources are used by this book? You've only got Sirah, Quran, Hadith. They are vast in themselves. But why do we not have the confidence that we can look up a book on our own? It really worries me. It's quite astounding. Right, let me give you an example, yeah? So this is Sahih Bukhari. It's huge. But as you open up, so is it fair to say that we know that Sahih Bukhari is an authentic resource? Yeah? So we all know that because you can literally Google authentic hadith. Like it's not something that's far away from people anymore.
I mean, I asked someone
when you go into the table of contents, you've got things here: revelation, belief, knowledge, ablution, bathing, menstrual periods, actions while praying, funeral, charity, zakat, hajj, umrah, witr, food, meals, sales and trade, fasting, tarawih, partnership, mortgaging, witnessing, peacemaking, the death of our prophets, certain information of tafsir, fitna, interpretation of dreams, punishment, coercion, which is something a lot of our South Asians are dealing with, dress, medicine, sickness, manners, naming your child, hopes and desires. Those are the type of topics that are covered in our hadith.
I think I've never been a reader, and I think now I've got books that I've started to read now, but I've never been into reading. And this is something I've recently started to look at the translation of the Quran and obviously start to understand it a bit more and get myself back on that journey. But that's something that I've got to do for myself. But if my children see me doing that, they will then obviously get encouraged by that as well.
Because when you read these things, you slowly start to embody them.
Yeah.
What our problem is we want to read one book and learn everything. It doesn't work like that. You learn a small little inch of information everywhere you go. I've never been a big reader, I promise you that. If I can find a resource on YouTube or something that reads it to me, I tend to choose that over anything. But what changed my mind is when I believe it is Angel Jibrail, when he came down to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the first thing he said to him was Iqra. He told him to read. Now, this man could not read. He was never taught to read. But if that's one of the first instructions that has been given to us by the first instruction that was given to our Nabi as a direct source from Allah is to read, there is no way that the shaitan's not going to get involved and push people away from reading. It's going to be his first thing. I don't need these people to read. As soon as they start reading, they're going to start realizing that I'm the bad guy. And I can't have that. So before you know it is, I can't concentrate, I can't this, I can't that. And I say this as someone, I really face this a lot. I face this a lot. The shaitan comes after me like no tomorrow. He's like, go and do this, go and do that, go and do this. And I'm like, ugh. Sometimes I pick this up and I'm like, I really can't be bothered. So I just pick up a random page and I write a note next to what I've learned. But without those personal efforts being made on our own part, no one is coming to save us. I get messages all the time like, will you do a get together and a workshop and just say, you know, give us all the downloads to how you live and how you do things. I refuse to do it. I am not going to tell anybody else how to live when I am trying to figure out my own journey myself. We all have to figure out our own challenges and the things that come into our way and how to face them. If you don't like reading, you can literally YouTube it now. Audio of authentic hadith. Like, we've got everything at our fingertips these days. There is no excuses. It's not saying, oh, sit down every day for an hour and a half and read everything. It's impossible to do that. But if you were to pick up this, like, where did I put it? I'll put it down somewhere now. I think the shaitan ran away with it. That is actually incredible. I can't see it. Subhanallah, subhanallah. Oh, here it is.
Oh,
I was like,
he didn't want you to see that.
But like literally, so if I'm not in the mood, right? But guys, by the way, you can buy this from Amazon. You can buy it from Amazon now.
I've got one, yeah, and I do listen to the seerahs and stuff. I'd rather listen to something. I find that more, I understand it better. But I have literally started to read as well and get myself reading a bit a day. Not too much, just whatever I feel like, just to get myself back on track for myself, and then how I can conduct myself with. I think what it is with my journey is that I feel ashamed to go back out there with, since the divorce. I'm just finding that a bit of a struggle. I don't think the community, although they're there and they're very kind, I don't want sympathy, but they make me feel like that, you know, come here, you know, let me give you a hug.
I can't hear you anymore, sis. You have to speak up.
Oh, sorry. I just feel like getting myself back out there, I find that difficult.
But what, back out where? Where are you going? Just
to get out and start living. I just feel.
But I think you need to start with this.
You're
not going to have the instructions. You're not going to have the guidelines, and you're not going to have the confidence and self-esteem to start living your life without the appropriate Islamic knowledge. That doesn't exist. You're not going to get that. It's not magic. You know, if you listen to the seerah of our nabis and that is not doing anything to you, that is not sparking something within you, then what do you think the world's going to do for you?
My Islam is the only thing that gives me my strength through everything that I've been through. If I didn't have that, I'd be a crumbled wreck, to be honest. I think that's what keeps me going, is my deen, my praying. And, you know, I read around the house, even if the kids are there, I'll just read on the side, they watch me pray. I'll keep it going because that's where I get my strength from, because I know that's what keeps me strong. It's just when I open that door and go out there, I just don't feel comfortable with the looks and I just feel ashamed. I feel like I've let myself down, or I failed because I haven't my marriage. Maybe I'm not a good person within the community or family or my children. And I'm just trying to navigate myself through that every day. My strength comes from my deen. The other side of it is
when
living.
You read the seerah, what you've just described about how you feel, is it fair to say that our nabis went through equal, if not 10 times more hardship than this?
Oh, 100 times more hardship than me. I'm just nothing compared to what they went through.
It's not about you being nothing. Allah
I feel like nothing.
gave us these stories so we can gain strength from it and understand how other people react. Other people ostracize people that take steps to better themselves. You get shunned from society when you take these steps. That's what the seerah should be teaching you.
Yeah.
It should be showing you that if someone knocked on your door with a mob of 50, beat the absolute hell out of you and told you to get out of your town, could you deal with that? Probably not. We'd have to deal with it. You'd get through it somehow. But that is what the seerah is about. Is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala trying to show you that when you take steps in a certain direction, especially when it comes towards him, there's a whole herd of troubles, barriers, hurdles, everything that's about to come your way. And I'm not saying therefore then it's easy. I'm trust me when I tell you I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is we need to stop reiterating that same language. This is hard, I can't do it. This is hard, I can't do it. They're doing this to me, they're doing that to me. When we keep the narrative the same as the same narrative for the last 5 generations that the women have been saying, what we say, how we speak about life directly affects the way we think. So if you keep feeding this narrative, I'm ashamed, I'm ashamed, I'm ashamed, I'm ashamed, you're never going to get out of it. Instead, you should be focusing on, why did I take the steps that I took? I took the steps because I'm not supposed to be living in a situation where I am oppressed or belittled, or it's just an unjustified situation. I left because I have a right to live a fulfilled, peaceful life. And if my spouse isn't providing me that peace, and we've opened every single avenue possible to try and it's still not happening, I've got a right to leave that situation. I've got a right to change the narrative for my children. But what we focus on is all the negatives. So you're never going to come out of this mindset if the picture you're painting right in front of you is all about how bad and ugly things are. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I just got to read more. I need to read more. And Allah's making me strong on that side, definitely. It's just the fact that it's my own self-esteem, insecurities. It's me. It's not Allah, it's me. And that's what I've got to work on, to say it's okay to go out there and just hold your head up high and just get on with it. We've got things to do. And I know I've got things to do. And I know Allah's got a purpose for me. And I am going to be ready for it. I've just got to make sure I can pass this stage. And it's just a small hurdle. I wouldn't say it was a big hurdle. I'm not going to allow it to be a big hurdle. But it is there. And this is something I just got to navigate through to allow myself to become a strong woman, to be able to make changes for other people, to make their lives better as well, to say, look, we can do this, it's okay, it's not that bad, it's okay. But until I'm okay, I can't say that to anyone else. So I've got to make myself okay first. And once I've done that, and I'm nearly there, listening to you.
I'm on the same journey.
Yeah.
You know, it's just about how we perceive and take these challenges on. It is hard.
It's
Do
hard.
you think influencers or people that are out there like talking about certain things, you didn't think they're not in their bedroom at night crying because they found something difficult? Someone broke their heart, someone betrayed their trust, or, you know, getting a really awful DM saying, who do you think you are? I hope someone, you know, harms you. Or when parents aren't, you know, on board, or when you're fighting with your siblings. This is a misperceived, like we project like, oh, she looks strong, so therefore nothing must affect her in life. It's a mentality thing about how far you let that thing go, how deeply you let it penetrate you. Because we know the basics, but when we don't read them for ourselves, we'll never fully get our self-esteem. Our rizq our izzat and the day of our death is all in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not my mum and dad, not my husband, not my uncle, not my auntie, no one. Whatever respect I will receive from people is from my Rabb. Whatever roof, money I have or don't have is because my Rabb decreed it. And I could literally leave the house later today and this could be it. I don't know. When we take those things away from other human beings and realize they are in the hands of Allah, your self-esteem will automatically start taking a leap forward.
So accountability then.
How are you connecting that? I don't understand.
Like, actually, like you said, own what you're going through and get up and say, right, okay, no more. Let's just get on with it and move on.
Own what you're going through. Yes, accountability. I mean, that's why it's called It's Not You, It's Me.
Yeah.
Because no matter what anybody is doing to me, I have the answer of how I'm going to navigate it, not them. It will never be somebody else's fault. Even if if someone is harming me, there's some shape, form, or fashion of how I've put them in the position for them to harm me. So accountability is a huge factor. And I think when you're dealing with, we talked about this before, about South Asian women having a victim mindset predominantly. When you mix the victim mindset with accountability, those two things are opposing energies. So people find that very difficult. But yes, we have to be accountable. You know, I was hearing the other day, a sheikh was saying, you know, what's classified as a forced marriage? If your parents coerce you for 6 months in a row to marry someone, but at the end you say yes, that nikah is valid because you said yes. No one's going, oh, but her parents were going on at her for 6 months and she this and she that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us such strong individual autonomy that even if your parents were to slit your throat because you said no, Allahu Akbar, I'll be shaheed. We are not supposed to be so timid-minded that everybody walks past and throws a little opinion in and we're just blown away in the wind. So accountability, yes. Your self-esteem will come with the more and more knowledge you have about what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from you. Not what you were told when you were growing up, but the things that you actually read and obtained knowledge for yourself. And thirdly, knowing where the power resides. And it's not with human beings. It's not with me, it's not with you, it's not with anyone. It's not even with your own parents. We are told to respect our parents, not to blindly obey them. There is a balance and a strong sense of personal dignity in our deen. And that is what they didn't want us to have, because otherwise we wouldn't be yes people. Yes women is what they need. To keep low self-esteem patriarchal system in place, you need to crush women. You have to. Because the minute a woman realizes that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has her back, men are panicking. How do we control her? How do we get her to do what we want to do? How do we take this object of service and desire and mold it in a way where we can control how it operates? What's the first thing you would do? Take Allah out of the equation. That's it. Now you're a lost bird with no North Star. You're literally flying around in circles, bashing into the next thing that's near you. And that's what they did. They took that North Star, that direction, the ultimate goal, they took it away from us. And that's what we need to ensure that we are bringing back. And I know women are sensitive, and the feeling of belonging and closeness and acceptance from others and all that stuff, it plays a huge role in our psyche. But it's our job to manage that. If you, you've heard the term pick me, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I'm just going to be so nice and kind and good that everyone is just like, oh, she's great. Oh, she's lovely. Oh, she listens and she's so this and that. Oh, she's so malleable and, you know, oh, she never causes any trouble, never has an opinion of her own. Constantly taking the side of the oppressor so then she can be relieved of, you know, any sort of backlash from them. That is what South Asian women have become. Because they took our goal away, which is Jannah. And if us Muslim women focused on Jannah, you would not. The minute that mindset shift happens, sis, you won't care. Flag on hai, koi aapke ghar nahi aaya. Nobody is, you know, come to give you dawat. No one invited you to a party. All of these things start meaning nothing to you. You'll start thinking, Allahu Akbar, that I wasn't invited to that party because I don't know how much ghibat is going to be going on there.
This is why I like to on my own thinking is a blessing.
It is a blessing.
It's a blessing to stay away from that. Because maybe Allah put me in that position to say, no, I'm not letting you be a part of that.
When you're being ostracized, find the blessing in it.
Yeah.
Because the same people we linger around and say we're going to miss so much and I wish they would involve us are the same people talking behind your back.
True.
And that's who we want to be with? That's who we want to spend time with?
I do find that some people who I speak to are very lonely because they feel they got no one they can trust to talk to about their issues because the community just spreads. You talk to one group of women or a sister or someone, and then they'll go and tell someone else, and you know that, oh, you know, I shared something and now they've spread it. So now women are too scared to speak up and say things.
Because they shouldn't be.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be sharing your private, intimate stories with just anyone. That's a mistake. Why do we have tahajjud? Why do we have salah? Why do we have dhikr? Why do we have istikhara? For you to talk to other human beings or talk to Allah?
But this is what I find whenever I go somewhere. Somebody will come up to me and quietly pull me aside and say, can I just tell you something? And then they'll tell me they whatever, and then I'm like trying to help them or just listen as best as I can. And then I'll say to them, look, you know, maybe in a street, and like you said, but it's like our just come a norm that we've got to go share it with another person. We've got to tell someone. We've got to speak to someone.
Because they don't believe Allah is there. They don't believe Allah is listening. This is an iman issue.
Good point, yeah.
Nobody cares. And I just want to say one thing, like very predominantly. I started my social media and TikTok stuff 2 years ago. I wasn't in the right place and I knew it. I wasn't practicing what I was preaching and I was giving other people advice. But I knew inside it was wrong. Islamically speaking, when you give other people advice, that is a huge responsibility. It's not cute and sweet. Oh, I'm just there for my girl. No. The advice you give someone when they are in a place of vulnerability, you will have to answer for that to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Yeah, oh yeah, right.
Do you know how many people, if you can't practice what you preach, keep your mouth shut. If somebody's like, oh, I'm being this and this is happening to me, that's happening to me, unless you have tackled that battle yourself, don't advise other people. You will have to, every one of us will have to answer for the advice we have given others.
Well, I had a situation where a female, she said I can't talk to anyone else because she says she trusts me. So she goes, I know you're not going to tell anyone. She told me something about a friend of hers who was having a bad marriage problem, and she went to the sheikh, and she kept going to the sheikh and saying, you know, he giving her advice and do du'as and everything will be fine. But it got to a stage where it got a bit out of hand, and she was going there all the time.
Sorry, got a bit what?
It got to a stage where the relation started between them, which
The sheikh and the right.
She went for advice, and it got to the next level where it shouldn't have gone, but it did. And the friend said to me, "I don't know what to do. She wants to go and tell the whole community now because he doesn't want to be with her." But she fell in love with him and said, "I want to marry you, and this is it now. I'm going to leave my husband for you." And he turned around and said, "Well, no, this is not what I'm going to do." So she said, "Look, I'm worried for my friend that she's just going to go out and tell everyone that she's on a rampage now. So look what he's done to me. He's left me." And I said, "Look, I can't give you the advice on this. I have to speak to a sheikh, a female sheikh, an alima, because this is something out of my, you need the Islamic perspective on this now." So then I contacted someone, and then they went direct to that person, and she spoke to them, that lady, and said, "This is what he did to me, whatever." So that alima didn't give me the reply, because she said, "I'm not allowed to." And I said, "It's fine. I just want to make sure that she's got someone to talk to who can give her advice." And then the friend in between told me that she was told to just brush it under the carpet because of her reputation, and because she was married, and this would cause more problems for her. But she went to someone to speak to because she was vulnerable, and they took advantage of her. And I said, "Well, why didn't she go to a female alima rather than the male? Why did she go to the masjid for the mosque for the male?" And she said, "It happened now, but now she wants to tell everyone, and she can't." I said, "Because the alima told her she has to keep it quiet." But it got to a stage where she was having difficulties in her marriage, and she didn't know where to go to speak to someone to help her because she was struggling with the marriage. So this kind of thing was not surprising, because I have heard a lot of these stories around the UK. It probably happens everywhere else as well. But when you're vulnerable as a female and you don't know where to go and who to speak to, you just go to the person. She went to someone who would give her that knowledge, which was the mosque.
Okay, so let's just cover this situation one bit at a time. Female vulnerability does not excuse women from their bad behavior. Okay, I'm up to my neck in it. Like, oh, she was so vulnerable and so alone. Yes, we know. I have been there myself.
Yeah, well, I have.
Does that mean that anything I do is now justified because I believe myself to be a victim? No, it doesn't. Now, we don't always need sheikhs and alamas. We need to use our common sense. When you're in a position where you're that vulnerable, you need to be, this is what a Muslimah is. You need to be so aware of that vulnerability that you know how to navigate yourself through these times. As a Muslim woman, when we share our body and our intimate parts, our mind, our thoughts, our gentle voice, when we share that with someone without the correct parameters, we get damaged. Why would Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decree to not get into those kind of relations before marriage for no reason? Because it harms us. Now, you said earlier about the alama saying to her about brushing it under the carpet. Now, I want to be really careful the way we use words. Because putting a veil on your sins and brushing it under the carpet are two different things. This isn't brushing it under the carpet. You're supposed to hide your sins. Whether she likes it or not, and how much in love she believes she is, she committed a sin. Loads of us do. So if she's committed that sin, now she wants to expose that sin and get the other two spouses involved in this sin and strip them of all their self-respect as well. Common sense says that's a bad idea. Common sense says that she allowed her desires to overcome her sensible brain. And because she thinks she fell in love, that justifies blowing up the whole community? When you share stories like this, you don't know who's picking it up. And if a young woman hears this story and sees everything unravel, this is why we shouldn't expose our own sins and other people's sins. So it's not brushing it under the carpet. It's actually Islamic advice to ensure that this kind of thing doesn't spread like wildfire in the community.
Well, where could she have gone then if she wanted someone to listen to her? She was so vulnerable. She was so in that situation, difficult situation, and
Vulnerability makes women stupid.
so if she had a problem, then where could she have gone to speak to, say, I'm having problems at home. Who can I go and speak to? Because I get this. I mean, even with myself, like, where do you go?
It's about looking at the root of the issue. The root of the issue is not her affair. The root of the issue is her mindset that took her down to the part of having that affair. She needs therapy. It's not, oh, let me go somewhere and just have a little chin wag with someone. She needs psychological support and help.
But aren't a lot of us women like that? South Asian women?
You can literally Google Muslim therapists. It's not hard anymore.
Yeah, a lot of people won't go to therapy. I did suggest.
Well, that's their problem then.
Yeah, she wouldn't go. I said, "But you
that's
need
her problem then.
You
can't have a problem being provided a solution or recommended multiple solutions and not take them and stay the victim.
Yeah, I did suggest to her different sister. I said, look,
no,
you've got
that's
advice.
Not acceptable. She needs to accept that the route she took was wrong. Rather than dressing it up with, I was really vulnerable. Of course, we all become vulnerable. Do you think I haven't made mistakes in my vulnerability? I've dived head first into the fire, believing that it won't burn me.
What is it that we women can do then when we're at a stage now where we're talking about it right now, and there's more and more people want to talk about it, and there's so many women. I mean, I've had people from all backgrounds telling me.
You're going distant and quiet again.
I said I've had so many different women from different backgrounds telling me that they're going through problems and they've got no one to talk to and nowhere to go or who to speak to. And I know you said about Dean, and a lot of people, a lot of us women still want to talk to someone.
Yeah, but sis, you've been on my TikTok. There are thousands of women out there providing support. There are thousands of Muslim therapists. There are thousands of Muslim coaches. I refuse to believe that narrative, that there is no one.
I haven't looked into it to know where the therapists are, because I never know they existed. The only person I've ever saw was you. I never really knew there was support out there like that.
People can Google, how do I do my eyeliner correctly? But they can't Google Muslim therapist. I refuse to believe that.
I think I never went to go down that route because I never thought that was something I needed or required. I'm just so used to just talking to someone about it rather than getting therapy, because I never knew that was something I could go down.
But talking to someone about it for what? You don't even know who you're talking to, whether they're in a decent state of mind or qualified to even talk to you about this. I can literally knock on my neighbor's door and go and talk to her. Does that mean that's a good place for me to reveal my stuff? This is the victim mindset again. I just need someone to listen to me, someone to hear me and all my problems and unless you're going to go to therapy or a coach to fix the root cause of your issues, you just want somewhere where you can ruminate and talk and talk and talk and tell someone how bad your life is.
It doesn't really get you anywhere, does it?
No, it doesn't. And it's a waste of time. And I don't support that kind of mentality at all whatsoever.
But it's happening. It's happening all the time whenever I go places or...
Well, they're creating rods for their own back, sis.
But it's loads of us like it. It's not just one or two of us. So many of us have got that mindset, which is something we're trying to get out of that mindset. Which is when I saw your TikTok, I said, yeah, this is what needs to be happening now. But there's so many of us still stuck in that mind frame.
Yeah, it's because you need to make a decision. Nobody can make that decision for you. You could literally go to a one-on-one classes with a sheikha for 1 year straight every week. If you're not willing to change your mindset, no one can do that for you. No amount of chats are going to change your mindset.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, that is a good point.
There's a huge knowing information and actioning that information. In between these two mountains, there's a huge crater. There's loads of things I know, but I don't do. You can't know everything and do everything. It's just impossible. We're just fickle human beings. So we have to pick things that we want to work on and choose them as our goals. The victim mindset is something you can only come out of when you realize how pathetic it is. That's it. Or you're stepped on so much that one day you crack. But when you wait for that, when you wait to be cracked, that's when we get rebels. That's when I get women commenting on my TikTok going, I left everyone behind. I took my hijab off. I don't care about what anyone has to say about me anymore. Because you waited to a point where you snapped. Your logical mind wasn't giving you the route of any kind of instruction. So you waited and waited and waited and waited and waited and snapped. And then you lost Allah in the meantime as well. And that's the fear. That's my fear. I don't care how many human beings I lose. They're gonna come and go. And one day, just like my ancestors, I'll be dust in the ground. No one will even remember Fatma. Why do we put so much importance on how we feel all the time? Wake up. The world doesn't care how you feel. The world cares what you do with yourself, and it responds to you accordingly. So if you're a victim of this world, guess what? You're going to be everybody's victim, because that's the character that people see, and they treat you according to the level that you put yourself in. So if you're too busy, high, you're just going to get someone to give you more of that, because they don't see a strong human being. They see a pathetic human being. And why would you treat somebody who's Muslim, pathetic, lacks self-confidence? Why would you treat them with respect? That's not human nature. Do you give respect to someone that doesn't demand respect for themselves? It's very difficult to. You can be polite in your manner, but that real respect, people harness that from their behavior. Don't you agree?
Yeah, I think it's just very difficult to hear, but very true to move forward with. And that's something that myself and many people I know find challenging, but self-improvement has to start.
Oh, yeah. You
And
can
it's going to
say
take
it for as
time.
long as you like. It doesn't affect anybody else.
Yeah, it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take time, but you just got to get up and start making moves slowly, and then try and get out of that victim mindset, which is so true. I don't know why I allow myself to get back into that when I'm doing other things, I'm moving forward, and then I move back again, and then I move forward. And it's frustrating because I don't want to keep going back. But my emotions, I don't know what it is, it just pulls me back again, but not as bad as it used to.
Yeah, but that's healing. It's stages. So you don't just wake up one day and you're like, well, I'm not a victim of anyone and I don't care. It doesn't work like that. So say you felt like a victim immediately about things. As you're learning and moving on in this journey, that period of time becomes shorter and shorter.
Yeah.
And then whereas it might have taken you a month to get over something, now it's only taking you 2-3 weeks. So instead of thinking of it as, well, I'm not getting any better because I'm still like that, you have to pay very close attention to the micro achievements. Like, oh, okay, actually, it's only been a week this time. Then 6 months down the line, oh, well, I was fine within a day.
Alhamdulillah. Nice to get
That's
to that
how
point.
it grows.
Yeah.
And we have to also pay close attention to, you know, being women, we have a cycle-based lifestyle. So there's some months, some weeks in that month of our cycle that we are not going to have the same resilience as we do in other parts. We will feel more vulnerable. We'll feel more upset about certain things, and our thought process takes over the way we think. You have to know yourself very deeply as a woman to manage your life. You have to know what your triggers are. You have to know when you're feeling strong and when you're not. You have to know when to put your foot on the accelerator and when to take it off. Sometimes you just got to turn the engine off. You have to try and practice these things before you realize. And it's not the end of the world. Nothing is. If you've had a spat with someone, and usually you would have that same spat over and over again, and it's normal to you now, fine. And then one day you realize, I don't want to have this. I don't know why we have this. I don't want to have it anymore. So this time you have the spat, but 2 days later you're like, let me just call them up and just put this to rest. That's growth. Because the old you wouldn't have done that. The old you would have just kept fighting. So growth is gradual. It's unfortunate when you're in that victim mindset and everything's really hard and you're struggling and you are feeling really down and out. You just want to wake up the following morning and be fixed. You just want to be healed. You want to be like, oh, well, I think differently now and I don't care anymore. All of a sudden I woke up and all my care was gone. It just doesn't work like that, unfortunately. It's a persistent and constant challenge and journey that you have to pick to face. You have to pick your heart. Do I want to be a miserable shit for the rest of my life? Or do I want to try and navigate these things in my life the best possible way I can?
Well, there's more important things in life that I got to focus on. There's a lot more going on in the world and everything, and my problem is only very, very small. But it's something I have to. It's not. It's going to be easily overcome. It's just going to take time. But my Dean is the main thing that's going to keep me moving and striving and being better. And hopefully one day I can help other people as well to say it's okay. Sometimes you just need a hug. It's okay. Just pick yourself up. It's going to be fine.
It's all going to be fine.
Yeah.
What's happened in your life that gave you cardiac arrest?
Well, no, yeah, they haven't.
It doesn't. You'll only die when you're meant to die. People hear all sorts of news. Somebody died, their husband cheated on them, something atrocious happened to their children. Na'udhu billah, may Allah protect us all. There is so much news people hear on this earth. Look at Bilal Assad. He talks about it openly. He lost his brother and his son in a car crash on the same day. They both died in his arms. And he still is doing dawah, subhanallah.
SubhanAllah. You're so good.
So we need to stop being like, oh, this is going to tear me down. Oh my God, what am I going to do? You're just going to get up and you're going to get on with it. That's what you're going to do.
That's what I'm going to do, Fatima.
Yes. Because you don't have any other choice.
Well, I don't have a lot of time. I've got so much to do with the other side. I've got to think of preparing myself for being better, doing better, giving better, and then knowing that I've got to be answerable to Allah and forgive and forget and move on. And that's something that I'm challenging to do before this Ramadan, to make sure I'm in that place to do that. And I've started, and I'm proud of myself that I've started it. Only one at a time. I can't do it all at once, too many. But I'll do one at a time, and then I'll just bite my lip and say, no, it's fine. Let's just move on. Everyone's answerable to Allah. So I don't want to be the one that's going to be questioned, why did you do that to that person? I want to be the one that Allah says, they can say, no, I don't want somebody to stand there and say, point a finger at me because of my actions. So I want to make sure that I've got my deen in place and Allah's pleased with me, and I try and rectify things. Whatever issue people have with me is on there, not mine.
Everything is balance.
Yeah.
Everything is balance. Every time, and people go from one extreme to another. That's not necessarily the case. When we hear what people think, it's our job to assess that. Not just to be like, well, I'm perfect, because none of us are.
No, we're not.
So we assess the feedback we receive and who it's coming from. Even if that person is victimizing you, it's our job to see if there's any truth within that. You have to have enough self-esteem and confidence to say, okay, this person approaches me in a certain way and I don't like it. But these are the things they said about me. Say there's a list of 4 things. It's our job to assess each and one of those things. Is there any truth in that? If I truly ask myself on my own, in the privacy of just between me and Allah, is there any truth to that? Do I feel that there is? And sometimes there might be. Does that mean you go and fall into the feet of the person that, no, it doesn't? It means you need to appropriately assess, how am I going to fix myself inside if there was any truth in this comment? I need to make sure I do that between me and Allah. But if someone is genuinely just beating you down and being awful to you and ostracizing you, then you need to put them in their appropriate place. In fact, in the grand scheme of things in life, they are the victim. Because they believe that they have this level of power to ostracize people, to bend what other people think about them in society. Astaghfirullah. Everyone will have to answer for the stuff they come up with, but we need balance in our lives. Every time I hear women, they just go one extreme to another. Either I'm going to care so much, I'll sacrifice my life under injustice, or I don't care at all and I don't care what anyone thinks. We have to be in the middle as Muslims. What people think is not the be-all and end-all of our lives, but it's there for us for self-reflection. Because you can accidentally slip into the realm of arrogance and not even realize it. We can never be blind to the truth.
I think it's hard to face people when they're constantly battering you emotionally, and then you want to try and keep the peace because you don't want to come across as aggressive, and you want to do it with hikmah in the best way you can. But you're right, you need to vocalize it if it is.
But there is no wisdom. There is no wisdom in sitting there and taking crap from people.
No, I vocalize it.
That's a false sense of wisdom.
No, because then I do vocalize it, which irritates them even more, because I'll say, well, actually, no, this is how you made me feel. This is what you said. This is how it hurt me. But I was wrong if I was wrong. But what you did wasn't nice, you know. And then
once that conversation is done, then what do you do?
Just trying to be polite and just remove myself from the situation.
Right, because it's all about the response you receive. If I go to someone and express my thoughts and my feelings to them, and it is not being received, I will stop talking there. You don't cast pearls before swine. What does that mean?
No, I understand what you mean.
So you do your due diligence and tell people. If it's not being received and you are not being respected, stop talking. What is it like? I'm going to keep knocking on this door. Every time someone opens it, they throw a bag of poo in my face. But I'm going to keep knocking on the door. Why? So I can keep telling people that what a victim I am? How I'm not being received? How nobody listens to me? Well, you shouldn't be talking overly in places where you're not being listened to. Do your due diligence. If it's received and there's a healthy reciprocation, like, oh, okay, well, I didn't realize that what I did would make you feel that way. So how can it be changed? Or I'm sorry about that. Fine, that's a productive conversation. But if you're somewhere where they've turned around and said, I don't care what you're saying, I didn't even do that, that's just a vehem in your head, well, it's quite clear that we should stop talking in those scenarios, right?
Yeah. No, exactly. Because you're not getting the response that you were looking for. Because you know they're not listening.
It's not about the response we're looking for. It's about the relevant and decent response.
Yeah.
I could be looking for a response of just come and love me and just tell me everything's fine, because deep down that's what my nafs wants. But logic says that a healthy conversation is something that is come at with equal levels of respect, equal levels of accountability. So if we're going to knock on the same door over and over again and wonder why the response is so negative, is because we're not waking up. There's standing up to injustice, and then there's having your self-respect in balance. You don't stand in front of it and then someone's slapping you and you stay there to be slapped. You know, we've got really confused notions of how to live with dignity. And that's the main thing we need to get to the bottom of, in my opinion, is that it's a mindset shift. We've seriously got this idea of, I want to be this angel and I want to help everyone and I can't help myself.
True.
What's the point?
I've got a lot to think about after this conversation. Interesting.
You know, there is no sense in trying to save others when you can barely save yourself. There is no sense of giving other people advice when that is advice you can't follow. It's actually hypocrisy. When you tell people to do something that you can't or are not willing to do for yourself, that's being a hypocrite. So, as well-intentioned as women can be, there can be a lot of misplaced emotions and motivations in what they do. Like they really think that, I'm just such an, angel and the light is shining out of me. And well, no, not really. Because can you imagine trying to step on an angel's tail? You'll burn your hand off, burn your foot off. Can you just imagine? They'll be like, don't do that to me. There's the parameter. I give you your space, you give me mine. इज्जत अपने हाथ में होती है. Izzat is right here in our own hand. But instead of treating it like this, we do this. And then all the vultures come and take a piece, and then we say, oh, look, all my Izzat is gone. Well, shut your hand.
That's so true.
And I know I can come across really like I'm having a go, but it's my passion and my irritation when I see South Asian women just, they're handling things so badly.
Yeah, we are. Because we don't know how to do it. That's why we're trying. We're trying.
Painful to watch.
I know, and we're trying. Yeah, it's just navigated it in a way where we can actually be strong women and know what we're doing. But it's knowing yourself, like you said, right from the beginning, and knowing what you will put up with, what you won't, and how to do it. But I always feel I got to do it with a bit of care, and I don't want to come across as aggressive, but make my point. And I have made my point in certain parts, and the other people don't like it. So they ostracize you and they leave you alone and think, oh,
yeah, and they're not going to like it.
No, and they go, bully jandiya or hagi dariya. That's the way she is. Look at her, look at her, look at her. She always does that. She always does that. And you just think, no, because I've said something and I'm standing strong with it in some parts. I'm not right all the time. When I've said what I felt and I told you what I think and you don't like it, I don't know what you want me to do with that. And I'm going to move myself away because I feel better for saying it, but how you want to feel about it. I don't want you to hate me, but for some reason you don't like it. So they go, oh well, let's just move on now. Let's just keep going.
Yeah, and stop barking up the wrong tree.
Mm.
You've said what you needed to say. Be quiet now. You're embarrassing yourself by going on and on. You know, we don't realize how much we embarrass ourselves. And we think other people are doing it.
Yeah, that's true.
It's not other people. Other people are being honest with you about how they feel about you. And you're saying your truth. It's not being received, but you go back for more. It makes no sense. It's a full circle of self-harm.
Acceptance, I think it is. Can they accept me now? Will they accept me?
Well, I think we need to be focusing as Muslim women on whether Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to accept us. We just assume Jannah is free. Like, oh, I'm going to get Jannah. Astaghfirullah. How do you know?
Yeah, you don't. No, you don't.
Nobody knows. So instead of focusing on getting Jannah, focusing on our akhirah via the behavior we do here on earth, we focus on the people on earth accepting us when they're going to die as well. Don't you want the approval of the everlasting entity of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? You want the approval of your Russi Butti auntie who is more likely to add more spice to your situation than help you simmer it down. We're worried about what people think when we don't respect those people. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
I wouldn't, caring about someone's opinion who I don't respect, it just goes to show the low levels of dignity and respect I have for myself. Because I'd rather be accepted by a bunch of people I don't respect than be ostracized.
Not nice being lonely though, is it?
Get over it.
Yeah.
Boo freaking who? I don't care. Oh, I'm on my own. And so a lot of us are. And even when how many times have you heard it and experienced it yourself? You could be in a marriage with someone and be more lonely than being physically on your own.
Yeah, that's true.
Loneliness is a state of mind. And we pick company of people that make us feel awful so we don't feel lonely. That's pathetic. And we're not out here to be pathetic. Muslim women are not pathetic. Muslim women have a fine balance between knowing how to be feminine and when to bring in their certain masculine traits to get things done. But to have that divine balance in approaching life. Like I am willing to help anyone. Someone can knock on my door and I will do whatever I can to help them. But you knock on my door and the first thing that comes out of your mouth is, "Oi, get out here." You're going to receive a very different version of me if you approach me like that. That doesn't mean I will be aggressive and nasty. It will mean that the amount I open up my palm where my very vulnerable center and my respect is, it's not going to be like that. It's going to be like this. And I am going to assess, according to your behavior, how much I should open this. But if I'm just like this with everyone, like I need everyone to know that I'm just such a kind, lovely woman who sacrificed her life to an awful man and I'm raising my kids all on my own. Okay, but I'm just going to put my palms out like this, all my self-respect, all my dignity out for everybody to come and take a piece of. And then I'm wondering why I'm bitter. I'm wondering why I'm angry. I'm wondering why I'm miserable. It's really not a difficult equation. It's a difficult thing to implement and it takes time, but the equation is not difficult. We make it difficult. Oh, but I just want to be so kind and so lovely and like, I'm literally, and you're not an angel, sis, nor am I. Bringing kindness and approaching people with respect is here. Getting walked all over by people disrespecting you is here. You should know as a Muslimah, by reading Quran and Sunnah, by reading the Seerah, by understanding certain hadiths, we understand the delicate balance between being a fierce lion and a dormouse. That's what a Muslim is. That entity in the middle. That person that's so fierce when it comes to certain things to do with haqq, but they are there in your moments of the most difficult times you have. We've got this impression that to be approachable, you have to be soft, gentle, little, oh no, I can't harm anyone with anything I do. People should be able to feel from you that there's a line of respect I cannot cross with this person. But, inshallah ta'ala, we can reflect on our behaviors and sort of implement change over time.
Yeah, inshallah.
And it's not an impossible thing to do. And we're all in different places of that journey. Some people earlier, some people in the middle, some people further down. But even the people that have been doing this journey for years, they will still come across these problems. They'll still be like, oh, how should I deal with this? So, inshallah, with everything that we've spoken about today, it will cause a lot of self-reflection in the hearts of a lot of women.
Yeah, I hope so, inshallah.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah. And,
we've covered a lot of different topics.
Yeah, we did. But that's how it rolls. Because people's like triggers and mindset all becomes revealed slowly, slowly, slowly.
Yeah.
But inshallah, thank you so much for your time, sis. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And I think the topics that you brought up will be really helpful for others as well to listen to, because I'm sure they can relate. But we also need to ensure that we're placing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as our priority goal to as who we should be pleasing.
Yeah.
And we're not here to please the people of earth, to respect them and love them and treat them with dignity. But we're also here to ensure that those parameters are here for us too. And if we are approached with negativity and aggression and what have you, that we've got enough self-esteem and enough knowledge about why we are here on earth to assess that appropriately. And as time goes along, inshallah, you just become unshakable. And when you become unshakable, then no one can take you off your track. So inshallah, let's see if we can do this again and maybe see how you've come along from this conversation, inshallah.
I will.
Yeah.
Conversation next time, inshallah.
Yeah, hopefully, inshallah. And remember, we're not angels. So it takes time, and inshallah, with the right niyyah and the right instructions we take from Allah, we can get to where we need to go.
Inshallah.
Okay, Jazakallah khair, sis, and I'll speak to you soon, inshallah. Thanks for joining us, guys. And if you want to be a part of this anonymous coaching session, send me a DM on my TikTok. It's not you, it's me, and we can get arranging it. Cheers. Thanks a lot. Jazakallah. Assalamu alaikum.